Did you know that there's an entire team at AWS made up of founders and early employees at startups? I'm Rob. I've led engineering for multiple startups, including being the CTO of Automatic Labs and engineering at Standard Cognition. I had one of YC's top 10 exits. I've been doing machine learning for about 20 years, and I'm passionate about building startups on the cloud. My team focuses on the world's best machine learning startups because the world's best companies want to leverage AI and ML on the cloud and the technical and strategic power of AWS. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how AWS can help your startup build machine learning irrespective of if you're new to ML or if you're building a trillion parameter mega transformer model bigger than the world has ever seen before. We can help you with virtually any size startup of any scale. Now, when I was first building my startups, I only took advantage of a small subset of what AWS has to offer. I knew about the Activate credits, and I had some really incredible roadmap discussions along the way. But since then, I've seen startups take advantage of other programs like the Amazon Partner Network to build their businesses, help raise money with VCs, and get training on the latest technologies. We built this entire ecosystem to support you. Now that includes angels, VCs, partnerships, marketing, product teams, technical resources, industry experts, you name it. And so after this presentation, if you want to work more directly with the startups team, definitely reach out to your account team to find out all the different ways that we can help you. I'd love to hear about speaking engagements and co-marketing, as well as all the different ways that we can connect you to different enterprise customers. Now, Amazon itself is an example of a company that went through a multi-year machine learning journey to be the ML-driven company you see today. ML is an integral part of Amazon. We've been applying ML in areas such as personalization and supply chain for more than 20 years. The truth is that this was a significant cultural change for the organization, but it's something every organization can do. AWS is a phenomenal place to do machine learning. First, we provide the broadest and deepest set of machine learning and AI services for your business. We launched over 200 new features and services in the last year alone, and our pace is only accelerating. We are providing the capability for developers who are experts or have no experience in machine learning. Second, we can accelerate the adoption of machine learning with our ML solutions like Sagemaker. Sagemaker is a managed service that takes a number of the required steps to build, train, tune, and deploy a machine learning model. And it makes it easier for everyday developers and data scientists. Third, you can get the confidence of building on AWS and the most comprehensive cloud platform optimized for machine learning. This is why twice as many companies are using AWS for machine learning as anybody else. And this isn't just for enterprises. It's incredible how many startups have been building their ML practice on AWS. Now, one of the facts that was most shocking to me was that 92% of deep learning runs on AWS with 91% of cloud-based PyTorch. AWS was the vendor of choice for over 100,000 customers and is a leader in the broadest and deepest compute infrastructure for AI and ML training and inference. But for all the progress we've made in machine learning, operating machine learning can be one of the most challenging problems in data today. In my position, I've seen startups struggle to decide their data strategy, find and grow talent, understand the business outcomes that will be the most benefit from their data, and turn these data insights into a repeatable process. In fact, hiring may be very well the top concern for startups. The truth is the need for AI specialists far outstrips the supply, and as a startup, you may not be able to hire qualified talent. And it's no surprise as the innovation and speed and the opportunity in this space is huge. A LinkedIn report actually said that demand has grown 74% annually and is 2 times faster than any other emerging job role. Now, I believe all startups can take advantage of AI and machine learning, but it's always an investment in building a data strategy, learning about the technology, developing your teams, and taking advantage of existing softwares and services rather than trying to build it up from the ground up. When I'm coaching startups, I really frequently talk to them about not trying to reinvent everything. And frankly, more often than not, I feel as though startups just simply don't know about services that are out there and just start building because that's what they do. They love to build. But the reality is that you need to focus on what are the key differentiators for your business. And that's certainly not going to be, spinning up compute for machine learning. That's something that many other people have done, and it would just qualify as undifferentiated heavy lifting. Now, when I'm working with startups, I always want to start with a data strategy, and it's the place that I feel like most startups struggle. Your data isn't doing much good if it's locked into a production database, and you're not able to prototype and test ideas, which might unlock new opportunities. Within machine learning, we're always working between two phases, the ML experimentation phase and the ML operations phase. In the beginning, you're going to be mostly trying to do experiments. And if you don't have a data strategy where you can actually go through and understand the underlying data you have or be able to combine it with different open data sets, then you're going to find that you're unable to get any value out of machine learning generally. This is where I feel like AWS can really help with modernizing your data structure and creating a scaled, trusted, and secure place to do this work. I think that the most commonly discussed piece of technology is a data lake, which is a place where you have purpose-built stores in order to get all the data into a place that anyone can access it, including for purposes of experimentation. Although startups tend to be very modern, I often find that this may be one area where they just haven't had a chance to scale up yet. And startups who are very concerned about, well, I have data in my database, maybe I could put it in S3. Is that a reasonable place to be doing machine learning? And these are some of the ways that we can really help you. So depending where you are in your ML journey, we have a ton of different services and programs to help. For example, the AWS Data Lab can help startups leverage technologies like Amazon Kinesis for data streaming, use S3 to help build a data lake, or Redshift as a data warehouse. And all of these things connect very well within our ML ecosystem. As we work together to understand these data needs, I highly recommend focusing on real business challenges and not sort of hobby or toy ones. We have a lot of programs and connections to help with strategic business outcomes. And I find that it's best to actually start with something that can really impact your business. And so this is one of these areas where we can absolutely work together to define success. Now, if you're new to this world, I would start to think of it through the lens of how do I enhance customer experiences with technologies like personalization or optimize the business with something like our fraud detection or intelligent document processing. We built out tons of horizontal use cases to build out intelligence as well as industry verticals to help you get moving. If you're already at this level, then we can also help you modernize your ML infrastructure to build your own models in a scalable and repeatable way. Now, here is this entire AWS ML stack, and I think it's the single most useful thing to help understand how AWS thinks about ML. It's divided into three sections: AI services, which are the quickest way of adding ML, ML services to build, tune, train, deploy, and optimize machine learning, and our ML frameworks and infrastructure to obtain virtually unlimited scale. And we're constantly adding to this stack. I've seen this slide updated many, many times, as we're constantly reinvesting and removing the undifferentiated heavy lifting to help our customers move faster. Now, at the top of the stack, we serve developers and companies who want to add solutions-oriented intelligence to their applications through an API call. This is going to be the quickest way to add machine learning to your business. Roughly, these are in the categories of industrial AI services, which are services designed to help AWS customers in manufacturing and agriculture. Other heavy industries, for example, Amazon Health Lake, is specifically tailored to our healthcare and life science customers. Vision services, which include Amazon Recognition for images and video, and can tell you what's an image, which celebrities are in the image, if the image is safe for work, and more. Speech services, if you want to turn text into speech, you can use Amazon Poly. If you want to transcribe audio, you could use Amazon Transcribe. Text services, which include things like Amazon Translate. If you want to understand what's being said in translated text, you could use Amazon Comprehend. And if you want to extract text from documents using OCR, you could use something like Amazon Textract. Then you have the services in general, broadly known as like Alexa and Chatbox, Amazon Lex, personalization, and forecasting, as well as things like Fraud Detector, Core Guru, Contact Lens. There are so many examples. I won't be able to go through all of them today, but rather these are great ways to kind of build in artificial intelligence into your application without having to build and train a model from scratch. Now, all of these services have pre-trained AI, sort of the batteries included way to add AI to your application. Our pre-trained AI services provide ready-made intelligence for your application's workflows. AI services are easily integrated within the application to address these common use cases. For example, we'll take Fraud Detector, which can augment or replace existing rules-based fraud detection solutions, allowing fraud operations teams to implement new measures to address threats. Now, you don't have to expressly train this model yourself. You can take advantage of one of the ones we built for you. Or in the case of Amazon Personalized, you can do things like make product or media recommendations for almost any product content by leveraging your own data. Under the scenes, Amazon Personalized automatically processes and inspects the data, identifies what is meaningful, selects the right algorithms, trains and optimizes a personalized model that is customized to the data, and the AI services allow you to take advantage of ML without having to learn ML from scratch. It's a complete end-to-end auto machine learning example. Now, if that isn't enough for you, then the middle of the stack is focused on those who want to build out ML on their own. Now, most famously, this is going to be using Amazon Sagemaker, which is the most complete end-to-end service for machine learning. It is a managed service for data scientists and ML operations teams that helps remove the undifferentiated heavy lifting associated with machine learning so they have more time, resources, and energy to focus on your business. Sagemaker has a lot of features and a full workbench of capabilities. Now, what I like about Sagemaker is it's a complete service and helps startups get in all the best practices for every piece of the machine learning process. It's not just another Python notebook or all-in-one AutoML solution. In fact, I've discovered a lot of startups might have pieces of this workflow that you see really well done, frankly, but then others will be completely absent and no communication between their teams. Most important thing that I can tell you about having built machine learning teams now several times in my career is that communication between the team can be the most complicated step of growing and scaling your organization. And by having a tool that actually goes through and addresses every single part, you can start doing things like building checklists or going over and having processes built as code to go through and understand the entire machine learning development lifecycle. Within Amazon SageMaker, that really kind of falls into the 4 primary categories. And that's going to be data preparation, the model building phase, training and tuning, and deployment and management or hosting. Lots of organizations are very good at building machine learning models, but might know a lot less about running them in production. And this is one area that I feel SageMaker really shines, not just in giving you API endpoints that have complete model monitoring, but also the ability to retrain and redeploy them, as well as scale them to the size that's necessary. And so if you're great at the experimentation process, then we can really help bring you into the operational process. And if you're just getting started and you don't have any of the experimentation process, then you can start with all the best practices rather than have to kind of piece them together after the fact. Now, I'm in the business of helping teams, and what I believe is the biggest strength of SageMaker is that it helps your entire team learn to speak the same language about using machine learning. It has low-code, no-code tools for business analysts like Sagemaker Canvas, which is a visual interface for building models, and it has data wrangling and code notebooks for data scientists. And it can be used to automate the entire data science lifecycle through ML ops, including all the underlying compute, API model endpoints, and CI/CD lifecycles. I really think of SageMaker as being a great way to level up a machine learning team. So let's take an example. On the screen here, I have an example of approving a model for production. Although there are only 6 models here, I've actually seen startups that have thousands of models on the screen and deploy daily, completely retraining and automating their entire process. A data scientist can see exactly what is in production and staging, and within the IDE, they could approve that model for production. Meanwhile, on your DevOps team, that same team could watch the same process fully within something like this code pipeline, and they can stay in their preferred domains or collaborate on these screens directly. Once it's finally in production, you can actually start visually understanding what's happening with your model. In traditional API endpoints, people tend to use something like an AppDex. And an AppDex is going to tell you something like, I've had this many of satisfied requests, basically how many people are hitting a given endpoint. Machine learning, we actually want to have a lot more information because there's this idea of sort of model and concept drift and other things that are going to affect the accuracy of the endpoint. An endpoint could return a result 100% of the time, but that result could in fact have no intrinsic meaning for the customer. And so we need another way of talking about these things other than a traditional API endpoint. And so we can look at things like, what's the false positive rate of this model? What does the confusion matrix look like? Something that was deployed regionally might have a different effect than something that's deployed globally. You might also have something like seasonality come and affect your machine learning model. And something that was deployed during summer might act completely different during the winter holidays. And you need a way of visualizing this and understanding this as a team. That means that your entire team needs to be retrained on what they think about this word performance. And so performance, which had to your systems engineer meant like how often is the machine up and running, is completely different than to your data scientist who's saying, hey, I have 100% accuracy on my training data set. Well, that means something completely different. So the team needs to learn how to work together to learn this new language of machine learning. And that's what I find is one of the key benefits of using something like SageMaker is to democratize ML innovation. I can't tell you how many startups I've worked with that start with like a gaming rig under their engineer's desk or a PhD in machine learning who are manually labeling data even after they've added more PhDs in machine learning. If your startup is manually labeling data with your most expensive engineers, then we definitely need to help you because they're frustrated. And frankly, there are so many tools to help make this process easier and automate all the process as well as distribute it amongst other workforces with things like SageMaker Ground Truth. And of course, it's AWS, so it comes with all the robust IT ops that you kind of expect, which tend to be notoriously difficult for startups, especially things like security and compliance, as well as like workflows or scalability. A lot of times I have startups who are coming to me who come up with really amazing ideas in regulated spaces. And then one of the major things that we have to do is help them understand like how that's going to affect their data workflows and automation that goes through. And this is something that we help people and startups with all the time at AWS. The way I like to think about it is, AWS is a great place for ML ops. You take everything that you know about traditional developer operations, all those best practices like infrastructure as code, understanding governance and cost, how to build reliability and debugging, everything that's involved in that. But then we have to layer on things like model governance, model monitoring, traceability, model validation, data validation, different quality grades, and actually build a culture that understands how machine learning and working with data-driven systems is different than working on a rules-based system or more traditional software development. I love taking startups through this particular slide, which is our ML Ops maturity model. And because honestly, I've seen every combination you could possibly imagine, including having really great cross collaboration between people on the team, but fully manual deployment, or people who've made it so that the model completely retrains and that they have perfect metrics, they can understand everything about it, but have totally ad hoc data collection and preparation. As we work together, we can start understanding what are the pieces of your ML team and how it works together, and getting you from that sort of initial to the repeatable phase, all the way from reliable stems to something which is actually scalable, in which we've had startups be able to, as I said, deploy daily and be able to work directly on production data and be able to deploy without having to worry about compliance and other regulatory issues. And because this is the most frequent question that I get, SageMaker is built to integrate with open source. For example, in this slide, I use Kubeflow to orchestrate my tasks and to keep track of my experiments with SageMaker operators to manage the underlying compute and manage hyperparameter sweeps. So in this case, I'm using an open source task orchestrator and completely using it to manage my compute, which is frankly a task that the person who's doing the experiments doesn't necessarily want to have a lot of involvement with. And so able to break up the responsibility and integrate effortlessly into the open source that they're already using, because it's designed to be modular. We're not trying to force a specific workflow on you. We're trying to cover all of your bases and get you into best practices. And finally, that takes us to the last part of our stack. Our deep learning frameworks, custom deep learning containers, and the broadest and deepest hardware options on the market today, including custom processors for deep learning. We were actually the first GPU-based instances for machine learning in the cloud. You can choose from a wide range of EC2 compute instances based on CPUs, GPUs, and custom accelerators, coupled with industry-leading networking and storage to meet your budget needs and the performance requirements of your models. If you're running classical ML, you can choose your CPU-based instances to run training and inference to your small to medium-sized ML models. If you're looking for high performance instances to run an inference or you're training for your deep learning models, you can leverage our GPU and accelerator based instances. And really, this is a very wide set, everything from a classic CPU to the latest and greatest NVIDIA GPUs to custom ASICs specifically built for deep learning and to save on inference costs. And I don't want you to think of it as just GPUs, because ML on the cloud is incredible. With our ultra clusters, you can make networks nearly invisible. These have 8 GPUs on a single machine and virtually unlimited storage. We also have these custom ASICs specifically built for deep learning, including the new Amazon DL1 instances, which offer about 40% better price point than compared to similar GPUs. And they feature up to 8 Gaudi accelerators by Habana Labs, which is an Intel company, and the same 400 gigabit networking and 4 terabytes of memory. So the software for DL1, the Synapse AI SDK, is integrated with PyTorch and TensorFlow, so you can kind of keep the same workflow that you're working with. Now, one example of this in practice is that we had a startup whose goal was to build a 2 trillion parameter transformer model. They ran an AWS POC for 50 billion parameters across 200 P4Ds, which is a staggering 800 A100 GPUs, a true supercomputer. The training workload is now in production across 500 P4Ds, which is 4,000 GPUs, running directly on EC2 with EKS for orchestration. We do a lot of this really difficult systems engineering for our customers, including things like build custom deep learning containers with the latest drivers. I remember when I was running engineering in my previous company that I would have to go through and manually update all of the different drivers that were associated with this, and it caused constant production issues, and nobody wanted to work on it because nobody really felt like an expert. Because you're an expert at machine learning doesn't mean you know anything about the systems engineering to go through and run the latest version of a driver or make sure that it gets deployed to the right machines. And so I think that this is sort of like a hidden superpower to be able to take advantage of engineers who do this for a living and then be able to stitch this all together to build a supercomputer at any time, at any scale, regardless of what you want. And of course, to wrap this up, we know that from practice that many customers are going to prefer to self-host their own stacks, especially using open source software, as the state of our machine learning is just moving at such a blistering pace. Partially, it's because they don't know about our managed solutions, frankly, but we can also integrate these directly into our existing solutions. So it's especially important for you to understand that all of these tools are designed to be modular. There's not just one way to build on AWS, and we can work backwards from your problem to help you integrate with the best solutions for your needs. Irrespective if you're using Airflow for your orchestration, or you want to use Sagemaker pipelines or AWS step functions, we've got you covered. Now, as far as the next steps, with the broadest and deepest set of ML services, we can definitely help guide you on your ML journey at any scale. We would love to offer sort of training and acceleration programs to get you started and talk to you about any of these cases directly. So definitely lean into your account managers to learn about all the different programs that we have to help you. I hope this whetted your appetite to build some machine learning on AWS, and I hope that we get to start building together soon. Thanks so much.